Hey everybody who's tuning in. I know I've been saying I'm going to do this video for like a week now, but technically I'm on vacation, so the whole doing things um, has been pretty absent. I've been taking a lot of naps, watching a lot of Netflix, and now I'm here today to talk to you about Venus going retrograde. Um, I'm excited about this. I've been looking forward to this all year. I felt like Mars retrograde was like this really tall mountain we all had to climb, and that we were going to climb. It's just a matter of our attitude and perspective while climbing that mountain so that we could get to this Venus retrograde. Yeah, this is the big deal transit to me. I mean, obviously, Mars in Capricorn and the Mars retrograde has been the big deal of this year. And I, by no means, want to minimalize the importance of that transit. But I personally have had enough. I'm pretty sure you've had enough. And so I am here to talk to you guys about the next major astrological event of 2018. And I know you guys are welcome. Let me close this door so y'all don't hear YouTube in the next room. Hold on. Okay. Um, and you know what? Let me just go ahead and show you the shirt. These are all visual artists from Chicago of color who recently, they just closed a showing or a show at a gallery here in Chicago, and they had made these shirts to promote the show, and I was like, David, I gotta get one. And so when I came to the show, I snatched up the only one they had. So anyways, let's talk about Venus retrograde. The first thing that I really want to talk about is, hey everybody, I see you guys over there asking me questions. Um, and I will answer them. Just hold tight. Okay, so anyways, the first thing that I really want to address today is this really fascinating gift I have for just seeing things. Last year in July or August, I believe it was, I released a forecast. I believe it was the August forecast of 2017, and it was right before the two major eclipses, and I called the forecast torchbearers. And it was extremely prescient because in the middle of August 2018 in America, there was a rally of torch bearing Nazis. And the image was kind of seared into our consciousness. It was very much like a vigilante thing, you know, this idea of bearing a torch, of bringing light to their cause or whatever it may be. And so that was really prescient that I had called the August forecast torchbearer. So this year, yesterday, while I was creating the graphic for this year's Venus retrograde in Libra, it just popped in my head so clearly, the image of an eagle in flight. And I was like, wow, that's deep, universe. You trying to show me something. All right, what I'm supposed to tell the people about the eagle. All right, so I'm here to tell you some things about the eagle. And all of this is just kind of off the top of my head. I did take some notes and post them on Instagram yesterday at People's Oracle. But today I want to start talking about this year's Venus retrograde by talking about the eagle. Now, in America, the eagle is like the bird, you know, eagle is on everything. It has been or was an endangered species and all of this stuff, right? You know, image of an eagle and freedom and power and all of these things. Now, eagle has two primary, I want to say, qualities that I think are important for us as we move forward in this Venus retrograde. First is eagle's eyesight, right? Like, you know, humans can see, kind of, but you know, our peripheral is real blurry. We can't see that far. We cannot see, you know, too close like this. But for an eagle, first of all, their eyes take up like most of their head. And I read that we have like 500,000 or 200,000 cones in our retinas to receive light and determine color and all those things. And something like that. Don't count me on the numbers because I'm not a numbers person, but you'll get my point here. That eagles have over a million for the same like ratio rather per space in the retina, something like that. So basically all of that to say is that eagles can see some things. Eagles can be flying hundreds of feet in the air and see a little scraggly rabbit running through the bushes, hide and blending into the bushes, swoop right down and get it, right? Obviously eagles are predator, but the whole point is that they have perspective like none other. They can rise up really high and see things in detail and with clarity that is enviable. All right. The second thing that is fascinating about eagles is the fact that they can fly so freaking high and not get elevation, or what do they call it? Is it elevation sickness? No, it starts with the A. Whatever. When you go up too high, like when you go to Denver for the first time and you get sick because the air is too thin, right? Eagles don't have that problem. Eagles fly high. Their wingspan is like 7 feet, something ridiculous like that. They can grow to be like 3 feet tall. These are creatures to be reckoned with. But what the eagle brings to us today to talk about when we're talking about Venus retrograde is this ability to rise above and really see things for what they are. Now, this ain't spiritually deep. I am not speaking in code here. I'm literally meaning the ability to get out of your feelings, to separate from your own unique perspective that is inherently biased, and to see things the way that other people see them. Not because I'm trying to come over here with you and look at it like that. Maybe that's the case, but I mean, if I am an eagle and I'm flying high above the land, I can really see things, and the details of day to day kind of, mood swinging, all the little things that get our attention and our energy from day to day, they don't matter because you have perspective now. And so that's one of the major things that this Venus retrograde is bringing us, this idea of perspective, of really being able to see the picture, really to be able to zoom out enough so that you can really see where the commonalities between things lie. And I want you to apply this to your own life. Where have you been so zoomed in that you can't even tell you're looking at a water bottle? You like, ooh, what's this ocean in my eyeball? No, it's not an ocean in your eyeball, friends. This is a water bottle. So you got to get some perspective to really be able to see this thing. So that's what this Venus retrograde is bringing us, an opportunity to gain perspective, to see things as they are, not necessarily because there's some objective reality out there that can be observed separate from me, but that there is an objective reality that can be verified by the perceptions of other people. That's what consensus is. That's what consensual reality is. When we talk about reality, we're talking about you're not in your own little world staring up at this water bottle thinking you got an ocean in your eye. It's being able to pull it back and see now, oh, more people can see this, more people can see this, more people can see this. We can all see that it's a water bottle. We can agree that it's a water bottle. It's not up for debate, right? So what are the things that are not up for debate in your life and collectively? What are the things that we agree to as a matter of principle because it's clear that everybody can see it this way? And if you are off fringe to the left or to the right and you thinking, oh my God, it's something coming at my head, and everybody's like, dude, chill out, it's a water bottle, right? You need the opinions, perspectives of the masses and of other people to really see things as they are. Now, this is not to minimize your own perceptions, but to really understand that the season we're in right now means that if you want to make progress in your life, and if we want to make progress collectively, we have got to find the commonalities with each other. Now, that is the perfect segue because now we are going to talk about Venus. In order to talk about a Venus retrograde, we got to know what Venus is. We got to know what a retrograde is, because I don't take it for granted that everyone knows what those things are. And plus, it's a lot of people out there talking about a lot of things that they don't know about. So we got to clear it up today, right? Venus. This is really so simple. And I want you to strip away in your brain all of the associations and preconceived notions you have about anything that I'm going to talk about today, because I want to blow your mind and I want to give you a new perspective. I want you to be able to see things clearly and apply this to your life, okay? When we talk about Venus, the concept is very, very, very simple. Unity, right? Now, from that basic concept, unity, unifying, or unification, we can expound and go out further to see what other concepts are included in this umbrella. When we talk about unity, we're talking about bringing people, things, and ideas together. Now, there are times when people, things, or ideas are in conflict with each other, right? That means they don't agree. That means that they are clashing heads. That means that they are working at cross purposes. But Venus is saying, I don't care. I want you to come together. Now, the special case that we have right now is that Venus is going to be at home. Whenever a planet is at home, it means that it is in charge of its own affairs and it does not have to consider any other agenda before it starts to move on what it is that it wants to do. To be at home means you know where everything is. You means you can control who comes in or out. And anybody who is in your home must abide by your rules, right? So people come to America, we expect them to abide by America's rules. Or people who come into our neighborhood or into our city, right? If you're going to come on the South Side, you got to know how the South Side rolls. Like you can't come over here acting like you downtown or wherever you think you came from, right? Because there are rules and the people who live there determine and establish the rules. All of this stuff I'm talking about is very, very important for this Venus retrograde. The idea of rules and, coming to understand what the consensus is and to move in congruence with that, right? But we're talking about Venus unity. Now, I've got some notes here and I just want to read them to you, all right? I do like extreme of consciousness here things so that I can just get everything out so I don't leave stuff out. All right, we've got unification by magnifying commonalities. This is so important, seriously, because people tend to think of Venus and Libra as this wishy-washy, I don't know what I want. Okay, whatever you say. Like, seriously, y'all gotta cut out with that nonsense because there's no astrological evidence for that. First of all, Libra is an air sign. Where do your feelings come in? When we're talking about air, where do your feelings come in? Who asked you about your feelings? Anyways, let me get back to my list here. But magnifying the commonalities, which means that, yes, there are differences. Yes, there are places where we do not agree. There are places where how you feel is so in conflict with how I feel that we got a problem. But Venus wants to magnify the commonalities. The other piece is changing and adjusting to fit and work together. This is really important. I'm going to come back to this at the end when I start talking about the implications of a Venus retrograde for relationships. But this is really important. Whenever people start tweeting or asking me about relationships as it pertains to astrology and natal charts and placements, I always tell them, you want to start with this question first. Not is your Venus conjunct his moon, trine his Pluto, square his Saturn. Like, no, that's not what you want to ask. The first question you want to ask is, independent of my chart and presence in this person's life, or independent of this person's chart and their presence in my life, what is my present capacity for changing and adjusting in order to maintain an established relationship, right? That's another question that's going to be so important this retrograde. I'm giving y'all all the goods up front. All right. I see all of y'all saying hello to me. Hello. Okay. Next piece here, women and girls. Venus, women, girls. Venus, women, girls. Remember that. The other piece, love, relationships, sex, pleasure, fun, beauty, art, adornment, right? You see my little earrings here? Adornment. You see my lipstick? That's adornment, right? Even my hair. Adornment, right? It's adding on to make it more aesthetically pleasing. That's another Venus word, aesthetics. How things appear. Listen, appearances don't have nothing to do with your real appearance. Opinion or your real thought about something. Appearances, man, can you play the game? Can you make people comfortable in your presence so that you are engendering cooperation? That's another word. All right. So now that we know what Venus is, we know that Venus is talking to us about women and girls. We know Venus is talking to us about unity. How can we come together, magnifying the commonalities so that we can have something in common? We got something in common. That was like, that was two songs. That was Bobby Brown and Whitney and Alicia Keys. Go figure. Now, let's talk about a retrograde. There are so many ill-conceived and misconceived ideas about what a retrograde is. I'm here to set the record straight. Fight me later, okay? Good. Now, the whole point of retrograde is saying that there is a regular, normal, average, predictable way that we observe a planet move. It takes a couple days, weeks, whatever, to move through a sign. Um, blah, blah, blah. It takes this many days, months, weeks, years for it to make a whole revolution through the zodiac, right? We have these calculable, measurable expectations of observing a planet. Okay. Now, retrograde means that this planet is deviating from its average motion, speed, and direction. That means it's moving slower. That means it's moving backwards rather than forwards. So we can take this idea of deviation. The other piece is that the retrograde, and I've said this before when I talk about Mercury retrogrades especially, the retrograde is in the station. This is really, really, really important to understand that the deviance from a planet's normal movement is because, wait a minute, you mean to tell me that Venus is not going to take 4 or 5 weeks to move through a sign? It's going to be in the same sign for 4 months. Hold up, that's not right. You see what I'm saying? It's deviating from its normal course of movement. And so we know that whatever it is that that planet represents, in this case Venus, the significations which I've just laid out, that means we are deviating from the norm. It means that, wait a minute, this is the consensus that we've been rolling with. We need to reconvene, we need to revisit, we need to check it up and see what's going on, because this needs to be updated to represent better the parties involved. See, a consensus is about multiple people or ideas coming together to agreement. And in order to come together to agreement, people got to lay down on the table what it is that they're dealing with. The inability to lay down on the table what we're dealing with and being honest about that, we can't come to a real consensus. So let's come to a real consensus, right? That's what we're going to do this fall during this Venus retrograde. We're going to come to a real consensus collectively. That means the U.S. midterm elections. We're going to come to a real consensus personally, right? I've got so many questions for you that I want you guys to be writing down and thinking about when I give them to you, but not yet. All right. So let's see. What have I got here? Right. The station is in the retrograde. I'm sorry. The retrograde is in the direct and retrograde stations. We've got a disruption of its normal movement and a change in perception. A change of heart. See, astrology is all about perception. How does it look? Right? When you cast your birth chart, you want to know how it looks from where you are at the moment you were born. So when we're observing a retrograde, it's how it looks. The planet's not really doing nothing, to be honest, other than doing its little orbit. But from Earth, because of the tilts and the axis, blah, 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 right? Planets appear to make these disruptions in their journey. Now, I've been talking a lot about retrogrades lately on my Twitter account at People's Oracle, because just this past week, both Mars and Mercury have station direct, meaning they are now moving forward through the zodiac. Now, this applies to Venus as well, that when a planet is stationing, a station, think of it like a train station. What happens to a train when it comes to the station? It slows down and it stops. People get off, people get on. It goes to the next phase of its journey. All right. Now, you can think of planetary stations as the station at the end of the line, right? Or maybe there's some construction going on. Let's just say that there's some construction going on, and they've got to stop and make a U-turn. Now, let's switch analogies here, right? When somebody stops and makes a U-turn, what happens? It holds up traffic. Everybody got to slow down too, because it's only one lane, right? It's only one ecliptic. It's only one path that the planets appear to travel on. So when a planet stops, pauses to make a U-turn like it does at a retrograde and direct station, it's going to cause a gaper's delay. That means everybody got to stop. What is Venus doing? Why is Venus holding up traffic like this, right? So let's move the analogy to practicality. When we talk about Venus disrupting traffic, ooh, I love that analogy. When we talk about Venus disrupting the flow of traffic, that means that the way that we together collectively, or you in partnership, have been moving together, oh, wait a minute. Are we going to the same place? Wait a minute. Did I even agree to go here with you? Right? What has changed? The terms of the agreement must be revisited, right? If you're moving forward with consensus, that means you're moving forward with agreement. Do you still agree, right? Or maybe you never did, or maybe you do now, right? Those are all of the things that we're dealing with during this retrograde. All right, now, this is big, 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 big. All right. Ooh, I've been looking forward to this for like a year now. Why? Because on September 11th, I believe it was, 2017, Jupiter entered Libra. Now, Jupiter changes signs once every year, but sometimes there's just like these rare alignments that come together and you like, whoa, this is a big deal time. Why? Okay, yeah, Jupiter retrogrades, transits the same sign once every 12 years. And yes, Venus retrogrades in the same sign every 8 years. But what's 12 times 8? 8 times 2 is 6, carried 196, right? So that's like every 96 years or something like that where they're going to intersect, where you're going to get a Jupiter transit in the same sign that Venus is retrograding. This year is that year, my friends. Oh, so what happened last year? On September 11th, 2017, Jupiter entered Libra, where it will remain until October 10th, 2018, right? Now, there's going to be a brief period where Venus and Jupiter are in the same sign, but the whole point is that it took a year, as it always does, for Jupiter to move through the Libra. But Venus is going to do that same shimmy through Libra in 4 months. All right. Now, specifically, Venus is going to station retrograde on October 6, 2018 at 16 degrees Libra. Venus will station retrograde. That means it will appear to stop and stand still in the sky, make a U-turn, and begin traveling backwards through the zodiac at 16 degrees Libra. Okay? Now, Venus will station direct. That means it will stop its backwards movement or appear to stop, make that U-turn again, and go forward at 1 degree Libra. And when is that? That is on November 17th, 2018. Okay? So the meat of Libra that we're dealing with is between 1 degree and 16 degrees of Libra. So the question that we have, well, when did Jupiter transit through 1 degree and 16 degree of Libra, right? Get your calendars out, friends. Jupiter transited through 1 degree and 16 degree of Libra. I wrote that down wrong. Where did I write it? I think it's like September. Well, let's just say September through November 2017. Now, this is really important because if we look around us, what happened between September and November 2017? It's very easy to take it for granted now because it's become such a major, major, major trend. And that's what Jupiter does. Jupiter sets the trend. It says, what are we all talking about? How do we frame what's possible for us as a culture and society, right? So in Libra, between that September 2017 and November 2017, the Me Too movement blew up like boom, right smack dab in the middle of that in October. I believe it was a conjunction between Mercury and Jupiter in Libra. Harvey Weinstein, however you say his name, the story came out in the New York Times. Now, if you pay attention, the stage is already set. Just today, what's today? Today is August 29th. Just today, a story came out about the current, is he the governor or mayor of New York? See, I gotta do my thing. Hold on. Oh, Lord, give me a second. I don't want to misspeak here. Right, he's the governor of New York. Andrew Cuomo was paid $25,000, donated $25,000. Right, Harvey Weinstein's lawyer's firm donated $25,000 to Governor Cuomo's whatever just before he paused the investigation. Listen, I told you then, I'm going to tell you now. You do not want to be on the wrong side of this conversation. If you are speaking about anything that is not justice for and by women, you should shut your mouth and go take a nap in the corner until next year, because that's how long this Venus transit through Libra is going to last. So, right? All right. This is, I have to say this every time. I'm a sidereal astrologer. So that means that if you are relatively new to astrology, or even if you've known your chart for a long time, the chart that you are familiar with looking at is your tropical birth chart. And the difference between the tropical birth chart and the sidereal birth chart is 24 degrees backwards. So unless you have placements that are past 24 degrees or 23 degrees of Libra, meaning 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, and 29 of Libra in tropical, that means that it's going to move backwards to Virgo. So you may not have any Libra. So yeah, between September 2017 and November 2017, the Me Too movement came up, right? That's when Jupiter was transiting 1 degree to 16 degrees. So let's just lay it out real thick for you. What the major themes collectively of this Venus retrograde is. Venus will retrograde in sidereal Libra. I have to say that because people get confused, and then y'all all up in my inbox telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's like, justice for and by women, justice for and by women. I want you to hear that, for and by. That means for women, for individual woman, by women, and by women, right? One, for women's causes, issues, women's stuff, okay? Unions. Remember we said that Venus is about unity? Well, unions, right? Unions. I've talked to so many of my clients already who have organized on their jobs. Just within the past several months during this Jupiter and Libra transit, they have organized on their jobs, and they are ready to step it up to the man, like, give me my money, give me my benefits, pay me right, or else ain't nothing getting done. I want to see how big that gets, especially in September. It's a very important time. Oh, I love this. Just a little bit of, can't think of the word, but you know what I'm talking about. Principled policy. Principled policy for fairness and equality. That's what we're talking about during this Venus retrograde. Women, causes, politicians, judges, justices, and other administrators of the law. Fair. What is fair? Really, what is fair? Is fair following the rules? Are the rules fair? That's really the question we're dealing with. Now let's talk about Libra here. The words that I have here are consensus, principles, voting, civics, and civil rights. Let's do just a little bit of dictionary definition. I love to, expound upon the etymology of a word, to really give a message from the word. Civic. Relating to a town, especially its administration. Municipal. Okay, relating to the duties or activities of people in relation to their town, city, or local area. So that begs the question, this idea of civic duty. What duties do you have to each other as belonging to the same municipality, country, state, city, county, right? That's the question that we ask when we go vote. Okay, so those are our major Libra words. I've been talking about them so much because Libra has been occupied by Jupiter since September of last year. So this has been a major conversation. Is it fair, right? One of the things that's important to understand about Libra, and I wrote this on Twitter earlier, Libra does not avoid conflict. Libra's skill is reconciliation. To reconcile means to take two divergent things and get them to agree. You reconcile when you go into arbitration or mediation. You say, we don't agree, but let's figure out a way to agree before we're finished here. All right? So the idea that Libra is wishy-washy, conflict avoidant, like, first of all, I don't know about in your zodiac, and I'm being facetious here, but in my zodiac, Libra is depicted by scales and often a sword depicting justice. So I don't know how someone walking around carrying a sword is like avoidant of conflict. Like, duh, he trying to set some things straight, or she's trying to set some things straight with that sword. So this idea that Libra avoids conflict or shies from disagreement, it's like, no, Libra's like, let rational minds prevail here. Let's use our good judgment. Let's try to work things out so we can reconcile the difficulties and conflict that we have here. That is all cute, and sometimes you got to fight it out. I want to talk about that. But before I do, let me see what else I have in my notes. Oh, let's talk about love. That's probably the bane of my astrological existence, because people are obsessed with how compatible or incompatible signs are. And if only it were that simple. But I just get so many people asking me what this placement, that placement means for a relationship or potential relationship for two people. And as my friends will tell you, I am not looking at the charts of people unless you're actually in a relationship. Like, first of all, figure out if you actually like the person before you start trying to figure out how many kids you're going to be promised to you from your birth charts, right? Like, stop. But anyways, what about love? I want to read this because I think that you'll find this interesting. What about love, right? That's the question I wrote to make sure I covered this topic. It's important to pay attention to the sign of a Venus retrograde. So pause here. I was talking about Venus being at home in its own sign of Libra. The other thing that is important to understand about a planet being at home, meaning Venus in Libra, is that being at home, let me put it to you this way. When a planet is in another planet sign, say Venus is in Mars signs like Aries or Scorpio, it means that the means to doing Venus things is Mars things. The tools and location of Venus determines that Venus must use Mars ways to get Venus things. So in order to unify, it must fight. Right? That's weird, right? Or for, say, Venus in Pisces, right? Venus in Jupiter's home, it must use Jupiter's means to do Venus things, right? So it's kind of like if you're not in your own kitchen and you're in somebody else's kitchen and you're trying to cook, you still gonna cook. You just got to work with what you got. And sometimes you only got a can opener and a can of beans and some sticks and a fire. So you having some baked beans tonight, boo, right? You don't always get to have your rack of lamb and your mashed potatoes and your oxtails and your sweet potatoes, whatever it may be, right? You got to work with what you got. So this is what happens when a planet is in a sign that is not its home. But when a planet is in its sign that is its home, did I say that right? It has all its tools at its disposal to do what it wants to do. So it's like a baseball player being on a baseball diamond with all of the teams there ready, with the umpire, the best ball, field has been taken care of, manicured, the audience is there, right? Fans are there. It's in the place that it's supposed to be to do what it needs to do. So Venus in Libra is in the place where it's supposed to be in order to do what it needs to do. Venus wants to unify. So what tools are at its disposal to unify? Rationality, good judgment. Let's go back to the eagle. The eagle has perspective and it's able to see things from a larger vantage point, not only limited by its perception. Listen, I think you are great. You're wonderful. I love you. Everything is love. It's great. But sometimes you be so deep in your feelings that you are not making sense, that your passions have got you moving and acting in a way that could be to your detriment. And yes, sometimes that's great. Sometimes you got to throw some bowls and yell at some folks to get what you want. But with the Venus in Libra, my friends, your cooler head needs to prevail. That means set your passions aside and use the power of your mind in order to see things clearly. So when you are in relationships, that means that, ooh, you know what? I don't want to fight anymore. I'm no longer emotionally invested in you trying to do what I want, right? This is a possible conversation during this Venus and Libra transit. I don't want to negotiate. I don't want to argue. I don't want to fight. I don't want to talk about what you did, when you did it, who you did it with, because you know what? I'm ready to move forward. So whatever we can agree to, that's what I'm going to do. If the agreement we come to means that, you know what, it's best that we part ways, the road diverges here, then we agree that it's best for us not to go forward together. However, if we can reconcile and add the perspective of a third party who could possibly help us to see things from that larger vantage point, right? Then maybe we can move forward together. Maybe I'm open, but I know the tools that I've been using prior to now are not the tools for the job. The tools for the job of unifying is not violence, is not fighting in the sense of throwing bowls or getting physical, because air is intellectual. It's about the principle, the idea, the theory. So what is the principle that determines why you choose who you partner with and how you stay together, right? I'll give you a really good example. I come from a family of people where divorce is just not a thing. It's not because, uh, there isn't conflict or difficulty or loss or things that you could get divorced over, right? The underlying principle kind of in my family culture is divorce is not an option. Now, this is barring physical abuse or other things that harm either partner, children, or other parties or themselves, right? That goes without saying. But in my family, there is this culture, there's this underlying principle that undergirds all relationships, whether that's marriage or whether that's between family members, that divorce is not an option. That means that there is a willingness. The principle is the willingness to bend, adjust, and adapt for the sake of maintaining the connection. Now, listen, sometimes you gotta leave, and that's cool too, because that's what you gotta do, right? I'm single, I'm a single mother, right? That's what you have to do sometimes. But what Libra is really talking to us about is how can you move forward with agreement? That doesn't mean that I have to agree to everything that you say and do. Politically, it means, you know what? I cannot agree with white supremacists. Like, it ain't gonna happen. However, what I will agree to is to moving forward, right? You can find some commonality. And again, this goes back to what is Libra's superpower? It's reconciliation. It's reconciling the unreconcilable. Now, I have a whole other perspective and conversation about this when I get to talking about Jupiter and Scorpio, but I'm going to save that for another day. I had some questions here that I wanted to ask you. And this is just about not necessarily relationships, um, uh, romantic, but just in general. I want to ask you, where has your life intersected with movements of justice for and by women, either directly or indirectly, right? So where do you stand on the Me Too, right? What types of political activism has your womanhood or femmehood um, uh, moved you to participate in? What women have entered your life over the past year? So going back to September, October, November of 2017, when Jupiter was in Libra and the Sun and Mercury and Venus were all starting new cycles with Jupiter, what women have entered your life? What role have they played in your ability to make progress in your life? What perspective have they offered to allow you to see things a little bit more clearly? And what principles have emerged as deal breakers for you in relationships of all kinds. Principle, 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 the underlying unifying factor that determines something. So, what is the principle that determines how and why you come together with other people? What principles determine how you move forward with these people? See, this is really important to understand because we're talking about an air sign. We're not talking about your feelings. We're not talking about what will make you feel good and be happy in that sense. We're not talking about anything like that. Air is the actual ability to rise above your feelings and get out of your feelings. And so there has to be some other determinant for you coming together with folks. What is that? What is the principle that informs your drive to partner and relate, right? And how can you measure and articulate your own willingness or unwillingness, or the ability or your inability, to bend and adjust in order to relate and connect to other people? How willing or unwilling are you to bend and adjust? How willing or unwilling are you to even try to find agreement with others as a means of making progress? Now, for all of my Aries risings, Aries rising, sun in Aries, moon in Aries, right? This is in opposition with your placement because Aries really wants to do things in accordance with the strength of its own will, and it often resents the interference or participation of other people. Now, remember, I'm talking about sidereally. So if you don't know, take this moment, and go to thepeoplesoracle.com, and right there in the menu bar, you will see a link that says sidereal birth chart. That will lead you to a guide that will show you how to use astro.com. Please do not use any other website because the ephemeris used to calculate the positions of the planets for pretty much every other website is questionable. And then some websites don't even offer you the option to use the zodiac that I instruct you to use in these instructions. So go to thepeoplesoracle.com, and right at the menu bar, so if you're on your computer, it'll be right at the top. If you're on your phone, you'll have to press the menu button, the little 3 lines, and you'll see a link that says sidereal birth chart. Use that and go get your sidereal birth chart so you can see what signs are. Primarily, when I'm talking about any horoscopes or interpretations for signs, we are beginning with the rising sign. Secondarily is the moon, and finally the sun. Okay, there are different reasons why you would put the sun second rather than third, but I won't go into that today. So for Aries though, Aries is all about moving forward in accordance with your own will and the strength of your own will. What can I do on my own by myself? What do I want? And that's what I'm going to do, right? This is not about engendering cooperation or convincing people. That's one of the main things about Libra. Libra wants to convince. It needs you to agree to move forward. And so Aries is not into that. Aries is like, I don't need you to agree with me. I'm going to do what I want to do because I can. Questions, I don't care, right? Libra is like, but I want to do this thing. And so it's not about your opinion either. It's not about your opinion whether you think Libra should. Libra is like, all right, let's test this out. Let's suss this out. Let's work this out. Let's reconcile so you can see it. We can do what I want to do, right? So this idea that Libra is self-sacrificial, it's like, well, whatever you want to do, I can't. No, this is not Libra. So for Aries, yes, this is happening in your 7th house or opposed your moon or sun. And so this is really talking about how willing or unwilling have you been to consider another perspective or way of doing things that includes other people. How would you have to adjust your own will or desire in order to receive the help and assistance from other people, right? It could be so hard when you're so deeply invested in doing things your way to stop and say, ooh, you know what? Just because I can doesn't mean I should. I want to try to move through these quickly because I've already reached an hour on here. I'm reading your questions there. or your insights. I got some groceries coming from Whole Foods after this. I'm excited. I'm making s'mores. That's why I keep looking at the clock. Anyways, so let's go to the next. Let's go in order. Let's go in order. I don't want to confuse y'all. So let's talk about Taurus. Ooh, and the one thing to consider as I'm talking about this Venus retrograde is not introducing anything new. Yes, it may introduce new people, but I'm talking about the concept, the Lord help my words. I'm talking about the focus or the topic is not bringing anything new. Venus in Libra is not bringing anything new. So like I said, yes, it may bring new people into your life, but this is all in accordance with what Jupiter has been doing for the last year, right? So let's talk about Taurus. Taurus, this is going to be your 6th house. Ah, fancy, ain't it? Your 6th house, the 6th house for Taurus, rising, sun, or moon sidereally is about, well, for any sign, but specifically for what we're talking about now. The 6th house is your work. And I mean what you actually do. Your obligations, duties, and responsibilities are all in the 6th house. Also, any illnesses that you may have been dealing with. So Taurus rising, who have had Jupiter transiting your 6th house, it's very likely that you have been seeking out a new job, that you have started a new job, you've had changes in relationships with your coworkers, or you are applying or seeking to apply for a new position that's more in line with your principles. But Jupiter may have also created the environment where you take on more responsibilities than you're capable of doing. Now, it could be something that you actually really enjoy, but it's still a matter of being overburdened in some way. Jupiter in the 6th house for Taurus, sun, moon, and rising sidereally also may be have the opportunity to get on top of some health issues, right, that have been going on for a while now, or that have arisen, and you have the opportunity to seek proper medical assistance to deal with that. So with Venus coming, and for my Taurus rising, I've seen this a lot. This is a great opportunity for you to get new positions, for you to have increased positive relationships with your coworkers, for you to, by consensus in some way, shape, or form, be moved into a leadership position amongst your co-workers, or you may take on a new job description, right? New job description, new role at work. Thank you. Let's go into Gemini. Gemini, this is your 5th house of love, sex, pleasure, creativity. Hold on. So Gemini rising, this is your, he had to slam it, didn't he? This is your 5th house of love, sex, pleasure, creativity, and children. Any progeny, creative, intellectual, sexual, all of these things are 5th house. So Jupiter here has obviously increased creative juices and vibes. It has increased positive relations with children. And it may also have brought your children on more of a peer or equal footing rather than a hierarchy here. So it may have reflected a transition in your relationship where now maybe the kid is older or more mature, or in some way there has to be some negotiation about the child or about children or with children, right? You're in partnership with your children in some way. So Venus for you is really fascinating because Venus joys in the 5th house. So the 5th house, Venus joined there, is all of that stuff about love, sex, pleasure, fun, sport, creativity. All of those things are associated with Venus and the 5th house. So this is a really productive place for Venus to be. I don't like to use the word good or bad because what does that even mean? So the fifth house is a productive place for Venus. What can it produce? It can produce opportunities for love, dating, sex, and pleasure. It can create opportunities for creativity or undertaking a new creative endeavor, but also if you're trying to conceive, Gemini rising, I mean, y'all got the best situation here, honestly, if you have not already. Or just a change in a relationship with children. Let's move forward to Cancer. This is your fourth house of home and family. This is really a important square because I think that the associations of Libra being like wishy-washy or overly emotional or codependent are really erroneous, and the square between Cancer and Libra really highlights this for us, because Libra is about principle, it's about idealism, and it's about detachment. So it's not about what you need, it's what you want based on principle. What is the consensus? There's kind of a social pressure to conform with Libra, but this is conforming to ideals or principles rather than necessarily behavior. Now, there is a sense of that kind of consensus or conforming because, laws govern how we should behave at any given time. And that's a Libra thing. But for Cancer rising, Cancer moon, Cancer sun, this is the fourth sign or fourth house from that placement. And this is about your parents. This is about your home and where you put down roots. Is there any litigation or arbitration or needing to come to a new consensus with family members or over a home or piece of property? Or with your parents? Is there a divorce or a coming together? What are they doing at home with your parents specifically? Your dwelling place? Are you getting a new roommate? Are there women relatives coming to visit you? All of those things are very possible for Cancer rising, moon, and sun sidereally. Let's move on to Leo. This is your third house of near relatives. So this is going to be siblings and cousins, aunts and uncles, anyone who is like family. Any voluntary course of personal study that you undertake is also governed by the third house. So what are your dealings with siblings and relatives? Siblings, what is going on with your siblings? Is there any involvement with the law, litigation, or legal proceedings? This could be a time where there is some kind of resolution or reconciliation regarding those things for Leo rising, moon, and sun sidereally. If you have been wanting to participate or join in a religious or spiritual course of study or community that is not our common, formal, validated religions like Christianity, Islam, or Judaism, then this is the time for you to do that. So I'm talking about traditional African religions and other initiations that require a woman to guide you. Right? I know that's really specific, but I've seen it more than once. Let's see here. We are on to Virgo rising. So this is your second house. Again, sun, moon, rising Virgo sidereally. Libra is your second house where Jupiter has been. So already this year should have brought you opportunities to get a raise or increase in pay or change in your work that means more money for you. But guess what? It's not over yet. You got a little ways to go, right? You have a little bit of a ways to go because Venus is coming, and Venus wants you to reconcile, find consensus, and figure out how you can get what it is that you want by engendering the cooperation or support of other people. And luckily for you, with Venus there, it probably means that there's a significant woman who is willing, ready, and waiting for you to help you get what it is what you want. So whether this is at your current place of employment or a new place of employment, this is a great time for you to get a raise and get some more money. The other piece is you just may be buying some stuff. Buying some new clothes, buying some new shoes, going on a trip with your sister, cousin, friend, girlfriend, whatever it may be. But spending that guap because you got to raise, right? So why you gonna spend that guap? Let us move forward. We were on Virgo, Libra rising. This is your first house. Anytime we have transits to the first house, this is you, your physical body, actions that you take, and things that happen specifically to you. So whereas other houses tend to involve other people, the first house is you, my friend. So what are you doing in this Me Too movement? What are your principles? How have you changed politically and socially over the past year? What does that mean for how you're moving forward and the decisions that you make in your life about how you show up and who you are in relationships, specifically to other people? Venus transiting the first house and Venus in the first house natally means being attractive to other people in some way, shape, or form. It's not necessarily physically beautiful, but what it means is you have a natural willingness to bend, adjust, and adapt to make other people comfortable, right? So when you have a transit, that means that people are more attracted to you in some way, shape, or form, all right? What you gonna do with all this cooperation that you're getting from other people who are trying to help you do stuff? Do you know what you want? Figure it out. Good. Scorpio, this is your 12th house. 12th house is always hard because 12th house is always something that is foreign to your nature, right? Scorpio is a Mars ruled sign, which is about defensive, protecting what has been established, protecting the physical body, emotional autonomy, the right to feel what you feel as a matter of self-preservation, warding off the undue emotional influence of other people so you can get clear on what it is that you feel so that you can preserve your own body. You ain't worried about nobody else. But Libra is like, oh, honey, my friend, sometimes you need the agreement of other people to do what it is that you're trying to do. It's just the way that it is. Sometimes consensus is required. Two heads are better than one. And the whole ego thing, I think, is really important for Scorpio, sidereally rising, moon, and sun, because when we are so caught up in our own feelings and how we feel and what our body is telling us, sometimes there is no external verification for the truth of that thing. So sometimes you might be way off. And you need that Libra to be like, okay, hold on. Let me pull you to the side and tell you a little something, Scorpio, because what you got ain't it, right? So the 12th house is about retreat. It's about vacation. Great time for that. To kind of recollect to collect yourself. That's what I'm trying to say. To collect yourself and figure out, okay, wait a minute. What is it that I'm doing here, right? Needing to retreat with a partner. Interesting. Where are we at now? Sagittarius, you are the lucky soul who has had Jupiter in your 11th house over the past year. So just like Venus joys in the 5th house for Gemini rising as Venus comes into Libra on September 1st, I'm going to give you all those dates at the end. Or you could just go to my Twitter or Instagram and the dates are right there at People's Oracle. But Sagittarius, you have had Jupiter in your 11th house. Jupiter joys in the 11th house. That means being in the right place to do the do, right? Not necessarily in your own kitchen, but you're in a kitchen and it has all the stuff that you need, so it works very well for you. So Jupiter in your 11th house has definitely brought new collaborations and associations with women and women friends and women's organizations and women's issues. But also mentorship guides, people who are like, I see what you do and let me help you do what it is that you're trying to do. Let me offer my resources and assistance to you, whether that's financial or human capital, so that you could do what you want to do. I'm looking over there pretending that there's a person I'm talking to, but it's nobody really there. So Venus comes to the 11th house is great for your social life, particularly a woman could be providing an opportunity for you to make progress on your goals and do what you want to do. These are more likely social connections that connect you to other people. But you know, you gotta, what do they say? Your network is your net worth. I hate kind of corny stuff like that. That goes up there with grown and sexy for me. Like, ugh. Anyways, but the whole point being that for Sagittarius rising, a significant woman or multiple significant women may aid you in picking up where Jupiter left off and helping you reach your goals. Could also be some financial benefits because the 11th house does have some associations with that. We're almost finished, my friends. We are at Capricorn. So that means we have Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces left. Capricorn, this is your 10th house. You are another lucky son of a. Let me tell you, things have been going so great at work for you. Like, I don't even know how it could get any better. Well, unless you have some other difficult places. But the whole point is, it can get better because Venus is coming to your 10th house. Now, the 10th house represents superiors and bosses. So people who have authority over us in our life and in our career. But for you, Capricorn, this is really special because the 10th house also represents our own propensity for taking authority in our life and in our career. So Jupiter has been setting you up for the major promotion of your life. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? I'm so excited for Capricorn rising. I'm thinking of a few in my mind that are clients and friends of mine, and I'm just so freaking excited. You all deserve, okay? Mars has been kicking your freaking butt in the first house. These eclipses have been blowing up your spot, Capricorn rising, moon, and sun. And let me tell you, it is your turn. It's time. It's time for you to get that promotion. It's time for you to take your business to the next level. It's time for women to come and be like, man, I've been watching you. I've been seeing what you're doing. Guess what? Let me help you out. Here's your turn. But this time, this is not a lateral move, my friend. This is up. I hope you're ready. Aquarius, this is your 9th house. If you have been considering going back to school, maybe you are already back in school. This is a great transit for you to meet a woman professor who really helps you clarify your academic goals. Maybe you aren't in school. Maybe there is some spiritual journeying. Maybe you've just been feeling kind of like, can't really see, can't really feel, can't really make sense of what's happening. And so this transit is really a time for a woman or some type of social kind of coming together of people, some kind of assembly that allows you to gain spiritual clarity. This is also great for anybody who is seeking positions of government or being in office in some way, right? The 9th house does all these things. Finally, Pisces, this is your 8th house. Jupiter has been there. Now, this is a catch-22 because the 8th house often has to do with other people's money. So that means that you may have access to other people's resources, but it also means that people got their hand in your pot too. So there is a conversation about sharing your resources with other people, or there being some interdependence, excuse me, where you you guys are so great sharing. But yeah, for Pisces rising, you could have some other significant access to other people's resources, or someone could gift you something. The other piece is benefits that come through death, so inheritances. So maybe you become someone's beneficiary. Maybe you lose a significant woman relative because 8th house, that's what happens. These horoscopes are by no means comprehensive. It is important that you take into consideration the entire birth chart, including time lords, because sometimes it's just irrelevant for you. And that's because you're not in a Venus ruled year. If you don't know what any of that means, then you should know and you should book a reading with me. So 2 readings you should book. If you're close to your birthday, a couple months out on either side, you definitely want to pick the solar return annual birthday reading. If not, you can wait on that and we can do the forecasting and prediction so that we can figure out what's going on and how things apply to you specifically. I forgot somebody, didn't I? No, I didn't. I started with Aries. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't say this, but obviously, people who have Mars in Libra, this is a great time for you to meet somebody. And for everybody, look back to 2010 and 2002 because that was the last time that Venus retrograded in Libra. Venus retrogrades in the same sign every 8 years. Okay, I gotta go. I've been on here for 1 hour and 20 minutes, and I want to give you these dates if I can find them. Venus enters Libra on September 1st, 2018. Venus leaves Libra on January 1st, 2019. That is 4 months. I'm really excited. I'll probably be sick of it by the time that it's over, but I'm excited right now. Venus will make various aspects, and I did leave some off of that graphic, but don't worry. You'll be all right. Venus is going to station retrograde. I explained what that means already. October 6th at 16 degrees Libra. If you have the 2018 sidereal astrology calendar, I'm pretty sure that I put that on the 5th. Sorry. Venus stations direct at 1 degree Libra on November 17th. So those are your dates. That's what's happening. Come follow me on Twitter. I'm going to continue to tweet about this for the entirety of this transit. And the last thing that I want to say, I did an interview with Celia Darrow of Bustle in December of last year. And she was asking what's going on, blah, 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 whatever, astrologically. And it was clear to me then, looking forward to this Venus retrograde after Jupiter had been in the sign all year, that the midterm elections in the United States for 2018 meant a landslide by women. This year has already been unprecedented in so many ways. If you follow me on Twitter, you know that going back to December, I'd be like, oh, 2018 is unprecedented, right? Right? If you follow me, you know that I've been saying that for months. Before every freaking news story, headline, and journalist has been using that word. Wild, ain't it? So now, for Venus and Libra, though, the unprecedented nature of this transit is that we are going to have our first Black female governor in Georgia. You heard it here first. She's going to win. It's going to be a tight race, but she's going to win. Trust me. Now I'm like, wait a minute, should you trust me? I do pretty good with my political predictions, so you should follow me on Twitter and follow my blog because I'll be publishing more of those soon. But she's got incredible luck. The Chinese astrology system that I use to make political predictions, she is a tough woman to be. Anybody who has, it's like, oh, there's a scripture for such a time as this. She is the woman for the time as this. It is Stacey Abrams' time. So this is unprecedented, and we're going to see this all across the country. With first, we already have the first trans woman candidate. What is that, in Vermont? I mean, it's already lined up. First Black candidate for governor in Florida? Are you kidding me? Right? This is already unprecedented, but there's more. There is more. There is more. Mars is going to move out of Capricorn, where it's been since May, the day before the elections, easing right into a trine with Venus. So that means that whatever Venus is, the moon is going to be in Libra on the day of the elections, people. So whatever Venus wants to do, it's got the moon, the sun, Mars, all supporting Venus. That means women win. I hope you're ready, because next year, this is going to change the course of politics for generations. I hope you're ready. I gotta go. I've said enough. You guys have been awesome. Let me see if I'm really here for the Capricorn message rising. Can't wait to book. Yes. Vote for Stacey Abrams. Let's see here. Virgo rising. I'm feeling lost my job in a male-dominated industry when Mercury went direct, hoping Venus will bring this through. Rowan, yeah, it's time. You should book a reading for me. Because, yeah, Jupiter in Libra is working in your business, in your life. All right, you guys are awesome. I love you. I'll talk to you soon. Check back later this week or early next week for the September forecast. It's a holiday weekend, and I'm about to get it in a little bit, so I don't know. I might have time to do it tomorrow. We'll see. Take care, people, and enjoy this Venus retrograde. Are you ready? I am.